I asked the plumber for a favor, and he asked one back. Now my husband won't even look me in the eyes. But the worst part? I'm not sure I regret it. My name's Diane. I'm 52 years old, and if you asked me 2 months ago what kind of woman I was, I would have said loyal, practical, stable. I would have told you about my 26-year marriage to David, my high school sweetheart turned CPA turned distant roommate. I would have told you about our 3 kids, all grown now, 2 of them out of state and 1 about to be married. I would have shown you the neat little garden I keep behind our beige 2-story, the one I tend to while David works late and eats dinner cold. I would have offered you iced tea and talked your ear off about retirement plans, health insurance, and that squeaky pipe under the sink we just couldn't seem to fix. But I wouldn't have told you the truth. Not the real one. Not that I lie awake next to a man who hasn't touched me in over a year, scrolling through photos of women I don't recognize on his phone. Not that I've started talking to myself just to hear another voice in the house. Not that sometimes, when I pass the hallway mirror, I catch my reflection and barely recognize her. And I definitely wouldn't have told you about the plumber. His name is Leo. I first met him on a Monday morning in March, the kind where the sky hangs low and gray like a wet towel. The pipe under the kitchen sink had finally given up and started leaking all over the hardwood. I texted the handyman we used before, but he was out of town. A neighbor gave me Leo's number, said he was fast, fair, and discreet. Discreet. I remember laughing when she said it. Like I was hiring someone for a secret. When he showed up an hour later, I almost didn't open the door. Not because he was threatening. The opposite, actually. He had this calm, grounded presence, like someone who never rushed a thing in his life. Mid-40s, maybe younger. His shirt was clean but worn at the collar, sleeves rolled up just enough to show the kind of arms that come from work, not gyms. "Mrs. Carson?" he asked, voice low and warm. I corrected him, "Diane's fine," before I realized what I was doing. He nodded, stepped in, and knelt down beneath the sink like he'd done it 1,000 times. Which he probably had. But it was the way he looked at the pipes, like they were speaking to him, like he was listening. I couldn't remember the last time someone looked at anything in my house like that. Least of all me. I stood there awkwardly, arms crossed, trying not to notice the way he moved. The way he smelled, something clean and earthy, like soap and sawdust. When he asked me for a towel, I handed him one and our fingers touched. Nothing big. Nothing movie-worthy. But I felt it. And I think he did too. He didn't flinch. Didn't say anything suggestive. Just looked up at me, and for the briefest moment, held my gaze a little too long. It was supposed to be a one-time job. Fix the leak, send the invoice, and disappear into the Rolodex of people I only call when something breaks. But 2 days later, the bathroom faucet started hissing. A week after that, the dishwasher stopped draining. And then, purely by coincidence, the shower pressure dropped in the guest bathroom. Every time, I told myself it was just bad luck. Every time, I told myself it wasn't about Leo. That I wasn't wearing perfume before he came over. That I didn't find myself checking my reflection in the hallway mirror right before his truck pulled into the driveway. But I was. And I did. And I started baking again, always something warm and cinnamon sweet on the counter when he arrived. He never ate much, just a bite here or there. But he always said thank you. Always with that quiet voice that made the world slow down for a moment. I learned he had a daughter, 17, lives with her mom full-time. He'd been divorced for almost 10 years. Never remarried. Didn't say much about the ex, but I noticed how his face changed when he talked about his kid. Softened, somehow. He learned about my garden. Asked about it, even. Said he used to help his grandmother plant tomatoes in old coffee cans. He laughed when I told him mine never made it past June. "You're probably overwatering," he said, brushing a leaf off my shoulder without thinking. It lingered. His hand, just a second longer than it needed to, and my breath hitched. Nothing happened. Not really. But that night, I laid in bed next to David and stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying the way Leo had looked at me when he said goodbye. "Take care, Diane." Just 3 words. But the way he said my name, it felt like someone had reached inside me and lit a match. 2 weeks later, I did something I told myself I wouldn't. The downstairs toilet was fine. It wasn't broken. But I told Leo it was acting up. Said it might be a clog. He showed up within the hour. He always did. While he worked, I made coffee. We talked about his daughter's college applications, my youngest's wedding plans. It was too easy, too comfortable. And when he stood up from under the sink, he brushed past me in the narrow hallway, just slightly. I could have moved. I should have. But I didn't. He turned around, standing just a little too close. "Diane," he said. Just my name, but slower this time, thicker, like it meant more. I didn't back away. I didn't say a word. And neither did he. The silence stretched between us like a wire, thin and taut and trembling. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, the way my pulse jumped in my throat. His eyes dropped for a second, to my lips, I think. Then back to mine. And then, the front door slammed. David. Home early. Leo stepped back, cleared his throat. I grabbed the towel from the counter, pretending I'd just finished drying dishes. David didn't notice. He never does. But Leo did. He looked at me once more before heading to the door. "Let me know if anything else breaks," he said, voice unreadable. And I stood there, towel clenched in my hand, heart pounding in my ears, wondering what would have happened if that door hadn't opened. Because something broke that day. But it wasn't the plumbing. It was me. The morning after he left, I stood barefoot in the kitchen, staring at the coffee pot, but not making coffee. Leo's scent still lingered faintly in the air. Not cologne, he never wore that. It was something real. Soap, clean sweat, the faint trace of sawdust and copper. I found myself breathing it in like it meant something, proof that connection still existed, even if it wasn't right. The towel I used as an excuse the day before was still balled up on the counter. My hand hovered over it. I couldn't bring myself to move it. It felt like touching it would confirm what I already knew, that I was somewhere past the point of return. David sat at the table reading the news on his iPad, sipping from the chipped mug I got him 15 Christmases ago. He didn't look at me when he asked, "Everything get fixed yesterday?" I opened my mouth, closed it, then nodded. "Good," he said, and that was it. Not what broke. Not how much was it. Not even a glance. Just, good. I went upstairs and stood in the bathroom with the door locked. Not because I needed privacy, David hadn't walked in on me in years, but because I needed to feel like something in my life was still mine. I sat on the edge of the tub, and I did something I haven't done since I was a teenager. I whispered his name out loud. Leo. The mirror didn't judge me. The faucet didn't drip. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt a flicker of something just beneath my skin. Not guilt. Not yet. Desire. I didn't text Leo. I didn't call. For 2 days, I tried to pretend it was over. I even tried to re-spark something with David. I made his favorite dinner, meatloaf with too much ketchup, and even wore that faded blue blouse he once said brought out my eyes. He ate quickly, thanked me, then fell asleep in his chair with the TV playing some political debate at full volume. I sat across from him, staring at the deep creases between his brows, wondering when I'd started to confuse his silence with comfort. The next morning, Leo texted me. "Hey, just checking. Everything holding up okay?" I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Yes, thanks again." I hit send. 10 seconds later. "Good. You seemed a little off yesterday. Everything all right?" I stared, paused, then typed. I was just surprised. My husband doesn't usually come home early. 3 blinking dots. Then, that why you stepped back? My breath caught. My thumbs hesitated. I didn't want to. Then I deleted it. Instead, I typed, "We shouldn't be having this conversation." I set the phone down. 15 minutes later, I picked it back up. No new messages. My heart sank deeper than I expected. Then, just as I set it down again, Then I won't say what I want to say. But you know what it is. I didn't reply. Not for a day. Not for two. But I thought about him. Every minute. Every silence in the house. And then, on the third day after David left for a weekend golf trip with his brother, I texted Leo 3 words I couldn't take back. Can you come? He showed up 20 minutes later. Didn't bring tools. Didn't ask what was broken. We didn't touch. Didn't kiss. Didn't even sit down. He stood in the hallway, the same one we nearly crossed a line in, and said, "Tell me to leave." I didn't. I looked at him, the weight of years pressing down on my shoulders, and said the most dangerous thing I've ever said. "I need something I can't name." He stepped closer. Just one step. And I didn't move. We didn't cross a physical line. But emotionally, we went further than we should have. One I haven't stopped replaying. His hand brushed mine. He leaned in, forehead to mine, and we stood there breathing the same air. The space between us felt like it hummed with something unspoken. His presence didn't demand. It listened. It waited. It understood. And I didn't stop him. When he finally stepped back, hours later, after nothing and everything had happened, I said, "I don't think I can go back to how it was." He looked at me like he already knew that. But he didn't say anything. He just left. 2 nights later, I found David in the garage. It was past 10 p.m. I thought he was asleep. He was sitting in a lawn chair, holding his phone, staring at the screen like it had betrayed him personally. "What are you doing out here?" I asked, voice casual, though my chest was already tight. He didn't look up. "Did you forget we have security cameras in the hallway?" The world stopped. Everything went cold. What? I asked, playing dumb. He turned the screen to face me. There I was, standing with Leo. In the hallway. Not kissing. Not touching. But close. So damn close. He hit play again. The part where I whispered his name. The camera caught it. You couldn't hear it, but you could see it. Mouth forming the word like a prayer. Like a sin. I was checking the feed to see if the dog knocked over the plant, David said. Instead, I saw my wife look at another man like he hung the moon. I wanted to defend myself. Say nothing happened. Say, you don't even look at me anymore. Say he saw me. But I didn't, because I knew the look on my face in that footage. I knew it better than anyone. It was the look I used to give David, back when he still tried. He stood up slowly. "I don't want to know the details," he said. "But I know enough." He walked past me, paused in the doorway. Then, without looking back. "By the way, tell Leah the security camera by the sink caught more than just pipe work." And he left. That night, he didn't sleep in the bedroom. The next morning, he was gone. So was his half of the closet. It's been 4 weeks. David hasn't answered my calls. Our daughter says he's staying with his brother in Tampa. I haven't heard from Leo either. Not since the night I told him I couldn't go back. And maybe that's for the best. I walk past the hallway now and catch myself glancing toward the tiny black lens in the corner of the ceiling, wondering how long I've been living a life that looked so still. It needed recording to prove anything ever happened at all. I still bake sometimes. Still water the garden. The tomatoes are doing better this year. Funny, right? Sometimes I imagine what I'd say to David if he gave me the chance. I wouldn't ask for forgiveness. I wouldn't say I didn't know what I was doing. I'd just say this. I didn't mean to fall for him. I meant to fix the sink. And now? Now the sink doesn't leak. But something in me hasn't stopped unraveling. He left the house with his ring. I stayed in it with everything else. But not once has it felt like I got the better deal.